What a game. What a night. It was absolutely historic. 2-0. 2-0. I can't tell you how elated I am as a person who lives in San Diego and who loves it when San Diego sports teams beat LA. Beat LA. Beat LA. And it just makes you feel good. It makes you feel great. But what a historic night. San Diego FC's first ever regular season game against the champs. And they showed up. And it wasn't just like they were sitting back and it was just a lucky win. They were absolutely sublime in every phase of the game. It was solid from first whistle to last whistle. And you know I broke down the game plan in the last episode for San Diego FC where we did a pregame analysis. I told you the keys to winning the game. Also, some of the things to watch out for because we could potentially lose a game if we did certain things. We did not do that today. We looked absolutely sublime, absolutely dominant from the first whistle to the last whistle. And we're about to break it all down right here, right now on the Penalty Kick podcast. And Mike Geo is tired. He's been watching soccer since, like 6 this morning. So I've been busy. I am tired, but I felt like I had to get this video out tonight. I usually watch the game twice before analyzing it, totally breaking it down. But we had to be part of history. We had to be part of this night. So we're here right now to break down the game, give you a game recap of everything that just kind of happened throughout the game, the big highlights, the big moments, in case you did not watch. And then we're going to analyze the game and break down what we really did well. What was the game plan that I spoke about in the last episode? What did I call right? But also, what was the one thing Mike Geo called wrong? We got to call myself out. But we called a lot of the game right. We got the tactics right. And I said, to win the game, we needed to do those things. And we did those things. And guess what? We won the game. So it's going to be absolutely great to talk about this, to talk about everything we saw on the field in the MLS home opener for San Diego FC. But what a wonderful night of soccer, the festivities, the San Diego FC fans out there were going absolutely bonkers. But that first half, when it started, it was this big celebration. You can tell that one of the big things I said, I think LA Galaxy are going to have a championship hangover. And it kind of looked like they did. But it was a bit cagey in the beginning of the game. There was a lot of turnovers in the midfield. Neither team really had more possession than the other. And LA Galaxy maybe even had a little bit more on the front foot in the early beginning. But besides that, was nothing much. We spoke about Ricky Push getting injured and not being available. And that is their best player. That is a midfielder that they count on. And Luca De La Torre, another person I shouted out long ago in the preseason. I said, even though Chucky is the star, the superstar of our team, he's going to be the face of the franchise. He's going to get the most goals, which is where the glory happens on TV. Luca De La Torre is going to be the machine. He is going to be what connects the defense, the center defensive midfielders, to then the attackers. But he was just so silky smooth with his touches, going through people, but also just not turning the ball over, making the right pass each and every time. He was the standout for me, even though I want to give the game ball to Dreer. Luca De La Torre was a standout to me. And in the first half, he showed up because Chucky did not look good in the first half. Chucky had a couple one-on-one opportunities where usually he will beat a player going forward because he is it like that. He is him on the wing. However, he got his pocket picked twice on the wing, so he did not have a good start to the game. He wasn't too involved, and when he was making turnovers. So it was a little bit shaky. But really, other than that, it was mostly just the midfield. We did dominate possession. We had almost 60% possession in the first half, which is insane. But again, the midfield was a weak spot, which we mentioned in the prior episode, and they took advantage of that midfield. But we couldn't really get it into any good scoring chances, even though we were on their side of the pitch a little bit more in that first half. But no shots on goal for either team in that first half. So you can't say we showed out in that first half, but we did play well. We did play composed, and it was solid defense. And if you have solid defense, you're probably not going to lose games. You're probably going to get points, and defense wins championships. So that's what I love to see. But in the end, we had a 0.04 expected goal rate. Less than a tenth of a chance for a goal in that first half. So we didn't really show up on the attacking end. Ingvarsson was not involved. Chucky had some turnovers. Dreer wasn't involved. So it was mostly our defense and our midfield really holding us down in the first half, but nothing concrete came up. And even though we kind of dominated that first half, LA Galaxy had an expected goal rate that was higher than ours. Theirs was 0.17, which is not good at all. But if you're at 0.04, that just shows you how little we actually put onto goal, how unthreatening we were, how uncreative we kind of were in that first half. But again, we dominated. We didn't bend. We didn't break. We were so solid, and defense wins. So that's what I was just so happy about and so proud about in that first half of play. But in the second half, it got interesting, and it got interesting right away. LA Galaxy came out on the front foot, as you kind of know they would. The champs didn't look good in the first half. Hey, maybe they're going to come out with a little bit more energy outside of halftime, and they did. But in the 52nd minute, their goalie, Mikovic, passed the ball inside the box to a defender. The defender could not handle the pass. It bounces off his boot in the box. He can't get to it, so Chucky runs onto it, then passes it in the middle to a wide open Dreer, who slams it in the back of the net beyond the goalkeeper. SDFC is in absolute dreamland because we're up 1-0 against the champs as an expansion team, as a team that has only been together for 5 weeks. And we're up 1-0. Chucky gets the assist, even though he wasn't too involved prior to that. After he got this assist, you could tell his confidence was up. You could tell the team's confidence was up. And that was one big thing I wanted to see. Confidence and composure. They had both of those in that moment. Yes, they got a little lucky with the ball being turned over right in the middle of the box. But you create those chances. You create your own luck. And I believe SDFC did that. And you have to take the opportunity when it's presented to you. You could have easily fluffed your lines and missed the goal. Dreer didn't. Chucky didn't miss the pass. 1-0 SDFC. Then LA, they were going to come out maybe a little bit more firing. But to be honest, LA really didn't show up until the last 10 minutes of the game. They put pressure on us in the last 10 minutes of the game. But prior to that, they only had a couple chances. They had a couple chances on the wing when they beat Lawson, our wing back, a couple times, and they beat him pretty bad, but it never came to anything and nothing ever happened. So you will take that. And just to give you a little statistic of how different the first half was attacking-wise compared to the second half, 0 shots on goal in the first half, first 45 minutes. Within the first 20 minutes of the second half, we have 4 shots on goal. And Mikovic had to make a couple just outstanding saves to keep LA Galaxy in the game because that's how dominant we became in this game. And that goal, just our confidence exploded. And so it was just so awesome because Chucky had an opportunity where he was one-on-one with the keeper. He was in a full sprint, tried to do a little chip to the left side of the keeper, and the keeper was sliding on the ground, and then he threw a left arm up and was able to block Chucky's shot. It should have been a goal. It was the perfect shot by Chucky. Even better save by Mikovic and the goalkeeper for the LA Galaxy. And, in the end, LA Galaxy, last 10 minutes, they were throwing a lot of players forward, which really lent to San Diego FC executing the game plan they love by inviting pressure, and so they can hit you on the counter, so they can hit the spaces in behind. And that is what happened near the end of the game as LA Galaxy was sending all their players forward. We create a turnover. We send it out to Dreyer on the right wing in the midfield line. Then he passes it all the way over to the left wing. Thomas Angel, who was a sub for Chucky, runs onto it in the left wing. And then Angel passes it back to the right side box area where Dreyer comes onto it with the left foot, strikes it hard, hits the top of the crossbar, down and in. 2-0, San Diego FC. San Diego FC was up 2-0, and that was in the 93rd minute. San Diego FC fans going crazy. People with the guys with the shirt off just chanting like, let's go. It was pandemonium. There is a different culture about San Diego and soccer. I love soccer with all my heart. I love San Diego. And I love seeing these two things come together to create environments like that. And that wasn't even at home. That was in Carson, in LA Galaxy Stadium, where the supporters groups, shout out to all the supporters groups. A lot of them are on the website for San Diego FC. Please support those groups. You know, send some money to the unions if you can. I think it's a $15 to join their union. If you want to join one of their supporters group, they're absolutely phenomenal. Go online, check them out, see what's up. But they made an absolute atmosphere that was absolutely crazy. Well-deserved 2-0 win for San Diego FC. But now, we need to analyze this, right? Like, we just broke down the game, what happened in the game. But what does this all mean? What does this mean going forward? What are maybe some weaknesses we could look at, even though we dominated the game? What does this mean for St. Louis next week? But I got to call myself out. Got to call myself out because the one thing I did not predict correctly in my last episode for SDFC was the scoreline. I said it was going to be a 2-1 scoreline, and that was going to be for the opposition. I always say, if you're a champ for a reason, and also didn't want to put too much pressure on an expansion team that's only been together for 5 weeks. But it almost looked the opposite. San Diego FC, 2-0. I was worried. I was worried about the preseason. I was worried about the 6 goals that they gave up in the first 2 preseason games, 6 goals total. It didn't look good, and it looked almost too easy. And again, my big thing, defense gets you points. If it's a 0-0 game, that's 1 point. If it's 0 to the other team, you have a really good chance at winning the game and getting all 3 points. So defense gets you points. Defense gets you wins, but we all know defense gets you chips. And that's what we want in the end. And many people like, Mike, don't think like that right now. Just be happy with the first game. I always think you need to find ways to win. You always want to be the best at whatever you do, even if in the end you might not be the best. You always have to have that mentality. If y'all know Kobe, Mamba mentality, you think he's ever losing a game. Jordan, you think he's ever losing a game. Messi, Ronaldo, you think they're ever losing the game. They always believe they're going to win the game. Always. So that's how I like to think. And I think that's how our team is thinking. That's how Mikey Vadas thinks. That's how the organization of San Diego FC thinks. So I love that they're playing defense. Defense wins you that championship. And even though I got the score line wrong, I got a heck of a whole lot right on the dot. Breaking down the game, I saw their star player was out, center attacking midfielder, and to me, he's their star. He's one of their most important players, and he's a huge part in their attack. I also told you that 4 individuals that were a big part of the team last year, a couple of them starters, had left on transfer. So they were out to other teams. That left holes, and I said their biggest weakness going into the game was their midfield. Another weakness that could potentially happen is a championship hangover. That is exactly what happened. LA Galaxy did not come to play today. They did not. They didn't show effort. They didn't show energy. They got their rings. The ring ceremony happened. Hey, it's really hard to go from championship to gearing up to go hard again next season. So I think us meeting them in the first game was super awesome, super important. Also, they didn't have their best player, which left them exposed. And I called the backup who they were going to sub in. I knew they were going to put in Marco Reus. Ricky, he is a center attacking midfielder, but he does so much more than just attacks. He also tracks back. He's crazy fast, crazy energy, crazy stamina. Marco Reus is in the latter parts of his career, 35, I believe, had an illustrious career in Borussia Dortmund over in Germany. Absolutely love Borussia Dortmund out there, and their fans, their energy, the soccer culture out there is just phenomenal. But Marco Reus is near the end of his career. He wasn't starting, obviously, because Ricky for the LA Galaxy was starting in that place. So you knew he wasn't per se maybe top of the game, just came off an off season, 35 years old. Maybe the legs are going to be heavy. Maybe the lungs aren't going to be as in shape. What more does he have to prove in his career? I said for San Diego FC to win this game, they needed to dominate midfield. They needed to make Marco Reus look like he was non-existent. And other than, I think, one real opportunity, you almost didn't even know he was there. You didn't know the midfield was there. That's how much San Diego FC dominated the midfield, facilitated the ball from the back to the front. It was beautiful. They didn't have turnovers. Godoy tracked back so well, played so much great defense, especially when Laughlin was beat a couple times. Godoy was there to cover. Sverkov, solid. It's funny. Sometimes I think, especially if center defense and midfielders, it's almost like you don't want them to know they're there until they're needed. They don't make turnovers, so you don't pay attention to that. They're not usually making the flashy pass, right? They're passing it to Luca De La Torre, who then, goes by people. But in the moments when you need them, especially to cover on defense, to hold the ball up and not turn the ball over, that is a good center defensive midfielder day. And Godoy was just that. Sverkov was just that. And then Luca De La Torre was lights out today. He was an absolute star, especially in the first half. But then our attackers came to the party. In the second half, that's when our attackers started to play because LA Galaxy started to pressure us a little bit more. They wanted to be a little bit more on the front foot, which left space in behind, which allowed our players to run into the back of the defense because there's a lot of space. There's a lot of pitch ahead of them. And so we can do balls over the top. We can do quick passes from back, middle to front, but quick. Don't take too many touches. 1-2 touches max and pass. Go forward, attack. We were more direct. And you can tell that that's definitely the style of play Mikey Vadas wants to, commit to. And we've been saying that from, one of my first episodes, we've been talking about that strategy and the pros and the cons of that strategy. And I think in the second half, all the pros showed through because they were just running forward. They were running rampant. And once they got that cheap goal, let's call it what it is. It was kind of a cheap goal because it was a turnover, a bad turnover by the goalkeeper of LA Galaxy. After that, we were running rampant. We were running up and down the pitch. We were doing everything that we wanted to do. Defense was not under pressure until the last 10 minutes. So our game plan and Mikey Vadas' game plan, big shout out Mikey Vadas for that game plan. Big shout out to the team for soaking in the game plan and executing. It's not as easy as you think, executing that game plan against the champs. So it was awesome to see in that second half that all phases of the game really work together. And it's just beautiful to see our attackers and to see them get in behind and make the passes. There was a few crossfield passes that were just phenomenal. They were delicious. But we have to think there was a 0.04 XG or expected goal ratio in the first half. The problem in the first half was LA Galaxy were actually not pressuring us when we had the ball. They were dropping back, which is actually not their style of play, but they were dropping back pretty much the entire first half. And so they were very compact defensively, and they allowed our defensive players and our midfielders to bring the ball to midfield freely. So we were actually just passing around the back a lot, and we weren't very creative on breaking down the lines and passing through the lines. Even though we were making some good passes, it really never led to anything. It didn't lead to an attacking chance. It wasn't direct enough. And so what happens when other teams just want to park the bus or sit their defense back? What happens when they don't want to pressure us and fall into Mikey Vadas's game plan? What if LA Galaxy would not have pressured us in the second half? Would we have had those same goals? Would we have that same attacking play, that same attacking prowess, that same ability to go forward and be direct? Because we looked uninspired offensively in the final third. We didn't have any shots on goal. And the one shot we did have was a really weak shot that was blocked by a defender well in front of the goal. So it wasn't a real shot at all. But our forwards weren't creative. They weren't moving from the middle of the field to the wing or the wing to the middle of the field, creating confusion, breaking down the lines, drawing defenders back a little bit so it can create space up in front. Because usually we want space in back. So when it's compact, you can't really go in back. You have to somehow create space in the middle, create space almost in front of the defense instead of in behind it. So that was something I was thinking about throughout the day. What if another team has a game plan to park the bus and sit back? Can we have sustained offensive chances? Can we create goal opportunities? It didn't look so in the first half, and XG, expected goal ratio, says it all. So what does this mean? I actually do not know. Because, again, if maybe a coach sees what I'm seeing, well, then he's going to be like, hey, our tactic is to get them on the counter. Our tactic is to maybe control the ball a lot longer, and then if we don't have the ball, just drop back. So we'll need to see how this plays out moving forward. It's going to be something really interesting to see, because I've said in all of my prior videos, even in the preseason videos, the times that we've looked really good on offense is when we execute that game plan and we invite pressure forward and the other team does move forward on our defense when we have the ball and we're able to send them over the top, quick passing through the formation. And we look great. We look awesome. But I cannot say that we've scored a goal kind of in the half-field offense when the defense is parked in the final third and we're passing the ball around. I haven't seen us break down teams yet. That might come with more camaraderie of the team, more understanding of the offensive players and the midfielders, because it is hard to break down those lines when a defense is compact, when there are 10, 11 people behind the ball. So we're going to have to see how that looks. And I think the big thing and the big change from preseason that has allowed us to win this game specifically, as well as look good at the end of the preseason, was switching Patty McNair from a wingback, which he's a dominant wingback, and he actually scored in our first preseason game, to a center back, because our center backs didn't look good. It looked like, the Red Sea was parting and people could just run right down the middle, and then it was a straight ball. It wasn't even a diagonal ball or anything. It was just a straight ball down the middle. We allowed 6 goals in 2 preseason games. That was the biggest worry I had, because defense wins chips. And we looked really, really good with McNair and McVeigh in the center backs, Godoy and Sverdkov kind of covering in the center defensive midfield, and they're doing really well switching off that defensive responsibility. CJ Dos Santos made one really great save, but other than that, there were no real great opportunities. The worry was actually Laughlin, because he got beat 2 or 3 times, and I'm talking about beat bad down the wing with a little shuffle and a little move. He got beat with just straight speed when he totally should have had the ball, because he had a yard or 2 advantage. So I need to see what happens with that position. Is that kind of the weak link, and how do we cover that? Do we ensure Godoy always covers kind of that underneath? But other than that, what a phenomenal game. They controlled every facet. We put the beat down on them for first whistle to last whistle. And the moment they were down, we did not stop kicking. That is a winning mentality. I love the camaraderie. You can tell individuals are playing for the badge. Everyone absolutely hustled. It was controlled, composed effort. And that was something I was speaking about in the preseason. So you got to tip the cap to everyone on SDFC for making this historic moment happen. And you have to thank LA for giving us our first win. So San Diego, LFG, SDFC. I can't wait to preview the St. Louis game on March 1st against SDFC. I can't wait to preview that game. I can't wait to give you a pregame analysis for that game and see what St. Louis has to offer. What are St. Louis's weaknesses? How can we attack those weaknesses as a team, SDFC? How can we make even more history and continue to keep this winning streak going? And you know, Mike Geo is going to be at the first game at Snapdragon Stadium on March 1st. And we're also going to break it down after to make sure we know everything that's happening with our squad, San Diego FC. Can't wait to make that happen. But also, I'm going to be going to sleep. I'm going to be dreaming of 2-0. 2-0.